Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another fantastic episode of The Weigh In. The title of today's episode is How to Be Creative.
Man, I love the title. Love it.
So I'm going to launch in, and I'm going to start with the 5 big personality traits, which are agreeableness, conscientiousness, emotional stability, openness, and extrovertedness. So those are the big 5, personality traits, So everybody encompasses one or sort of a blend of those traits. So that's just talking about personality. So now we're going to go into more actual tools in the toolkit to actually be more creative.
Well, is there any reference you have towards any of those 5? Is there anything you'd like to say anything about, like an extrovert or anything like that? I mean, that's the quirkiest one of the 5 you just listed.
I think openness and conscientiousness are the 2 major ones, because when you're conscientious about things, you're always paying attention.
And we always talk about openness also, too,
Yeah.
about like talk to your friend, we need to speak, blah, blah, blah.
And openness more or less to ideas.
Sure.
Willing to be able to take in different and divergent ideas and not being so ingrained into actually what, science may say is true or what physics may dictate as true, having that playfulness to try to look beyond. That's how the creative breakthroughs come.
Well, I think we see that in our, and even, folks, you can even notice in our show, we're able to put this together the same kind of way. If you can't learn from your friends, then obviously you need to try something new or have a new sport.
Yeah, and you definitely got to learn from your friends, because everybody's different, and you're gonna be able to draw different aspects of life, because all your friends are different, unless everybody's like cookie cutter.
Well, there are certain aspects of friends that you actually, of people that you like to mingle with more, because they actually are in the same groove that you're in.
Yes.
When you're younger, you've got more of a divergent group of friends, but as you get older, you sort of break it down to the people that are intellectually more important.
Absolutely. Like
if
you're like Leonardo da Vinci and you got the soul of an artist, you're gonna gravitate to more or less your friends who are more artistic inclined.
Well, look at him and Brad Pitt in that new movie. I mean, those guys are meant to be casted together. Yeah, DiCaprio and Brad.
They like that whole Rat Pack with Clooney and all of them. They have like a creative energy that just really takes films to like the next level. But just going into some scientific ways of being more creative. So they say Earl Grey tea.
I keep hearing that also.
There's the polyphenols.
Also, it's a great tasting tea. Also,
it's a great tasting tea. There's the caffeine. So drink Earl Grey tea, and you'll be a little bit more creative. They also say don't be too organized. Have a little bit of clutter.
Well, if I'm a clutter person actually. I'm not like a slob per se.
Yeah, but you like a little clutter.
It's the way I operate.
Yeah,
I don't know what it is. I can't explain it. Don't ask me to define it.
No, it's part of your. And everybody has a creative process.
A friend of mine told me, he goes like, the sign of a disturbed person. He jokingly said this is when somebody's house you go over and it's like a little too perfect. There's something not right with this person.
the congruency is just too on point.
Wait a minute, yeah.
They might be Dexter.
No,
got the bodies in the closet.
By the way, I presume you have seen that show.
Yeah.
I can't believe how good that show actually was.
Phenomenal
for a bad guy.
Yeah, no, it's phenomenal. The actor, Michael.
Love that actor.
He's tough. That's a good show. I like Dexter.
Quite true. But anyway, you got to have a little mishmash of your creativity laying around. You got to have a few different projects laying around.
Yeah.
For me, I've got a book over here. I got a book over there. I've got some inking I got to do. I got some editing I got to do for the show. I got a couple of video projects.
So you're looking at different things and you're being inspired.
Well,
and it brings up different memories that kind of like
correct. And they're loaded with energy.
Yeah, they kind of like coalesce, and then you can come up with something different. Yeah, that's definitely.
Yeah, if you put your head on the track and you're working on a certain kind of a project and you go one direction and get there, that project will get done if you're pretty diligent and you're good at what you do. But there's going to be something that's going to be lacking. It's going to be like straight to the point. It's going to be more clear.
Yes.
It's not going to go off, and you're not going to tell me why you got there. It's almost like a waving, sonic wave of creativity. If you can even picture that. It's kind of psychedelic.
No, I can't picture that. So another scientific way, apparently, to be more creative is to move your eyes. Like if you're reading something and you're focused, they say to look around the room, get your eyes moving, and then like that will induce the brain into more creative thoughts, which I thought was very interesting.
I've heard that before, and I've heard another example of that, something that's related to that, where like when you're talking to somebody and you're kind of going like, well, yeah, I know what you're saying more or less, And you see how I just kind of went off and I came back? Like, I do that to get refreshed in the conversation because I get
re-energize the memory bit.
I get kind of bored.
Yeah,
you know. But I've heard other people say when you're dealing with somebody, if they're like not always looking at you, they say it's like the person's not right or something.
They're not paying attention.
I totally disagree.
Yeah, no, I think it's different strokes for different folks.
Yeah.
Also,
how can everybody have the same kind of a brain type?
No, absolutely not.
Like you're intelligent as could be, and I think
there's different.
But
levels,
you're different than me.
Different modes of intelligence.
Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely, and way we process, the environment around us. Now, obviously, also I think a more famous and more popular one is to take a walk. Just walk. You get the blood flowing. You get the oxygen flowing, and you get out of the setting and the scenery which you were in. You move to a different scenery, which may stimulate different memories, different ideas. So if you in a position where you could take a walk, if you're working on a project and you take a walk to a different room, maybe outside, walk around the building, that will help stimulate creativity.
Well, you've heard the good old fashioned like take a walk in the park and different elements of that. It relates to the same kind of thing. And let me iterate also, which is actually very, very related to it, and it's actually related to the whole basic concept of creativity, which we're talking about, is the brain. The brain as an organ per se is so...
My favorite organ. Or my second
favorite. It's such an important organ that it actually is the one that actually needs more stimulation than anything else.
Absolutely, without a doubt.
And food. Go ahead.
The brain craves novelty. So the brain wants different things. It wants different stimulation.
Oh, it does. And you could get that from food, which we've talked about before. Yes. But it comes from sonic stimulation. That would be music.
Yes.
Or anything of that nature. Or even Mother Nature and the birds, and you're walking in a park.
No, absolutely.
Yeah. The car drives by. A girl jogs by. Somebody smiles at you. Your brain right now is like tripping if you can correlate that.
Because it's recording and trying to process all those different sounds to see if it's a threat or if it's just something benign. But you're bringing up different memories and different parts of the brain, and all of that just stays in there for a couple seconds, and then you can add on to whatever you're thinking about and maybe come up with a solution to some problem you've been working on.
Well, not only can you find a solution, and the solution is probably one of the most obvious things, I agree, that does happen, but they talk about the runner's high when the runner's done with the 12K and the 5K.
I run long distance.
They feel like they want to write. They want to talk to people. They need things to do.
Yes.
They go home feeling like, I can cure the problems of this world.
Yeah.
Same way young college kids do also.
You get, with that running, you get those endorphins, and you just start feeling good. And when you're in that mood of feeling good, it puts you in a mode of feeling good. And then you want to do different things, which I find is incredible. Now, kind of link into what we were just talking about, like if you usually work in one area, go work in a different, find a little coffee shop that you don't normally go to, change your scenery. Yeah, that helps a lot.
Go from a different table in your house.
Yes,
exactly.
Absolutely.
Sometimes what I'll do is, if I get an opportunity, it doesn't happen too often, but at least once or twice a week, I'm able to, I have to be at the shop.
Yes.
I have to open the shop at 11 o'clock. But if I can kind of make a couple errands around 9, 10 o'clock in the morning, I usually find myself with a half an hour, 45 minutes worth of free time. And I'll find a McDonald's. I'm usually up at the New University Plaza. Sometimes you see me over there when you're leaving. I'll get a cup of coffee. Probably get an apple pie, and I'll have my current copy of The New Yorker with me, or a good book, or a good comic, and I just read it, and I'm totally absorbed. I usually have some good radio on, too. Now, what I've learned is total, complete audio stimulation, along with visual stimulation, is like the most legal drug there could ever be in the world.
No, absolutely.
Because, now, myself, being an artist and everything, the things that I actually do is music actually stimulates my creativity in many, many ways. Now, being an artist, a painter, filmmaker, editor, whatever it might be, I like to listen to good music with headphones on because the music goes directly to my brain.
Yeah,
it's not like
there's no outside influence.
Correct. And if you listen to things that are more or less very, very creative and don't have vocals, now this means there's nothing against vocals, right? I love good vocals in any song.
Are you talking like contemporary or classical music?
It could be classical or even contemporary.
Like Beethoven. I
Beethoven, any of those kind of guys. They're telling pastiches of stories within the structure of what their music's about. Now, a phenomenon that took place in the late 60s that actually carried over to most of the 70s was something called progressive music. And I used to tell my friends, I grew up during that era. You get your Pink Floyds, and it's a little more trippier, but that's neither here or there. I'm just using it as a reference point towards what classical music does and the fact that there's no real, there's no vocals. I mean, obviously opera has vocals, and there's classical music being played during opera, obviously, sometimes. But the thing is, you need to listen to sounds, because your brain will actually will open up. It's like the alpha waves in your brain and the endorphins. Everything opens up and it becomes this raw. It's almost like engorged with creativity.
And it's stimulated by the patterns and the chords and the music.
So you'll be able to think straight. You'll be able to paint, draw, play a violin or a piano, whatever it is. Because I have a theory that everybody is an artistic person at heart. Deep inside, we're all artistic.
Mm-hmm.
But people have a tendency to think that artistic means just art, as in drawing, painting, or whatever it might be. But art is so far-ranging that there's really no limit to it.
Absolutely.
You could be an artist being a cook. Sports is a form of art. Obviously, the default things like painting and inking and waterbrush color and stuff. Skating, swimming.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Making love.
Yeah. All these things, that require what they would call a craft, something that you build to, that's all considered art.
It makes you live longer.
Yes.
It stimulates your heart,
your
brain, because you're not thinking. It takes away. It's almost like it wipes out all the shit that's no good.
Yeah.
Because you need a clear head to be able to think straight. The world is complicated enough as it is, let alone watching TV in these days.
So if you clamp down on what you find artistic, which is usually going to lend itself to being your passion, you're gonna forget about everything else. You're gonna have a myopic focus on like what what the task is at hand, and that in itself can spark so much creativity because you're really peeling back the layers on something and finding the raw form of what it is.
And what it does also is it allows you not only to do that, it allows you to determine exactly what your actual true passion is. Because I have another theory. I seem to be loaded with theories, but call it what you want. But I think everybody has a specialty or two in their curriculum, in their artistic portfolio of whatever that might represent. Mm-hmm. And a lot of times people think, well, I'm going to try to be a skater or a basketball shooter or a football player, or I'm going to try to be an artist or an actor or a director or a writer, or whatever it might be. But they're frustrated because things don't work out. Well, hey, don't let that get to you, because I truly believe this, and I learned this actually. I'm not just saying this because it's just some stuff I want to throw out there because it sounded good. You have to spend a certain amount of time. I couldn't tell you what the time is. It can range.
Yeah.
The time is you have to determine if any one of those particular artistic specialties that you're trying to find out if it's your niche, you need to spend a certain amount of time to see if it actually works. If it doesn't, don't throw the towel in and say, hey, I can't be a writer and I can't play piano. Try another one.
Angela Duckworth wrote a book called Grit on that, and she said grit, which is...
They call it grit.
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 Yeah.
All right.
So basically just that dogged persistence to keep going in the face of negative results.
But did she suggest that maybe try something different every now and then if it's in that realm of what you think is you want to do?
You can pivot, but she suggested, like you said earlier, just staying with it, just staying the course, till you get that break.
You got to ride it out.
Yeah, you have to ride
out. You're going to hit peaks and valleys no matter what it is in life. Yeah.
Yeah. So if you have that grit and you keep going, not only is that a heuristic for success, it's also a metric for being creative. Because like I said, sometimes to get that breakthrough, like you got to spend like weeks, months, years, decades. You think about Albert Einstein, Thomas Edison, Carver, like all these guys like who created great innovations in their domain.
Stuck to it.
These guys spent years trying to cultivate this. They also say that
Nikola Tesla.
Yeah, Tesla. They also say that constraint is a hub for creativity. Like when you're confined with limited resources, you get creative.
That's true.
It's that Tony Robbins saying like it's about being resourceful. It's not about resources. Working with what you have.
Tony spoke it absolutely fantastic.
Yeah.
And I'm glad you conveyed that to the public because, Tony's a real good guy. I
like Tony.
Tony was ahead of the curve, actually. He was popular before it was trendy.
Yeah.
And he definitely had a lot of nice things to say.
He's a very insightful man.
No, he really is. I think he's still around. I think he still does books.
Yeah. He's doing tours and seminars. Yeah. He's got the Date with Destiny. I've never personally seen Tony. It is on my wish list of things I'm going to do.
He's come to UB a few times, the University of Buffalo a few times over the years.
Tony,
maybe even Shays.
Yeah. Tony's incredible. I've read most of his books. I like Tony.
Well, one of the things I want to inject also, I just talked about it a few minutes ago, but I want everybody to definitely not throw the towel in. Don't give up on your plans, but you might actually have a calling that might be slightly different than the one that you think is your specialty.
So you might have to pivot.
You have to pivot every now and then. And thankfully, and I really thank you for mentioning that. It's such a simple word, but it's such a key word.
Yes.
You know, I mean, it works well in basketball, obviously, and football, but really pivoting in a creative direction of your life will actually make you a better person.
No, absolutely.
Because you'll still love the one you just left, but you'll actually now found some more love in another one you just went to.
No, absolutely. And you could take things from both, you know, and create something new. So definitely, you know, having great imagination and being curious about things, which is, you know, a very crucial aspect of, you know, creativity.
Like, don't feel weird.
Like, start to ask yourself when you're walking around or you're thinking about things, how does this work? Sure. Why does this work like this? Question the reality. Question the physics of the reality that you live in. This can spark creative ideas. Yeah. Hanging out with, you know, cultured people. Start hanging out with people, you know, and having conversations with people who have ideas that are divergent to yours. So, you know, you believe in this, they believe in that. Well, have a conversation about it. See how they got to the point of what they believe in. Yeah. All these things like spark and breed.
You'd be surprised what people you like that are intellectual actually are all about once you actually start talking to them. And look, keep this in mind too. We're talking about things that in some circles of life, people actually think it's a negative thing. They don't trust people that want to be thinkers. There's a lot of problems in our world where people are anti all this type of stuff and people of that nature. If you're special and you're intelligent, stick with it. There's no reason why you should not be.
Absolutely.
Doesn't mean it's going to solve the world. But again, we hope. Sorry, was there something you wanted to say?
Yeah. We just hope that you, I was probably going to lean on what you were just about to say, but like we just hope that you go out and you be as creative as possible and follow your dreams. But once again, if you like what you hear, please like, comment, subscribe if you're watching this or listening to this on YouTube. And thank you everybody who's listened to this episode today.
Thank you. It's the way in, and we're
Henny Boys
in the house.
In the house.